Hey boys, so we're going to go through examples on how this works. So for the first one, I've given you some scores. The first question asks for the range, so that's just what you already know, highest score minus the lowest score. The highest score here was 9 and the lowest score was 2, so it's 9 take away 2, 7 is your range. Now down here they want to know what the quartiles are. So that means we want to know what Q1, Q2 and Q3 are. So I've started off by making sure that we've got all these scores they gave us in order. So I've rewritten them so they're in order from smallest to largest. Now I've found the middle. Here's the middle. Okay, so the middle is where Q2 is, because that's where our median is. So our middle is right between 6 and 7, so it's 6.5. Now, after you've done Q2, you come over to this first half of the scores and you want to find the middle of those. So pretend these don't exist. You've got 5 scores sitting over there, and this is the middle one. So that will be Q1. That is your lower quartile. All right, now over here, again, ignore the first half of the scores. We're just looking at these ones here, and the middle is this one. So that will be your upper quartile, because it's up in the highest scores. So that's 8. So when we come over to this next question and they want the interquartile range, you're just going to do Q3 that we found down here minus Q1 and work that out. So that's your interquartile range. Okay, so we're going to do some more practice. This next one I've already got in order from smallest to largest. So again, we just count the scores and just check where this middle is. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 scores. So the middle would be 6 scores and 6 scores. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The middle will be after that. We're in the middle of 9 and 9. So that would be a 9 if we needed it. We don't need it at this stage because we don't need Q2 for this question. It's only when they're asking about the quartiles you have to give the Q2 as well. So that's our middle. Now look at the first group of scores here. And we've got 6 scores there. So if we find the middle of that, I'll just write Q2 on so we know what we're doing. The middle of those would be right there between these two. Okay, so that's where Q1 is going to sit. And that will actually be 6.5 because it's halfway between those. So I'll just write it up here. All right, looking at the other half of the scores, looking at these 6, here's where your middle is going to be. So sometimes it'll be right on a score if you've got an odd number of scores, or if there's an even number like we've got here, you'll be between 2 scores. So our Q3, our upper quartile will be here. The middle of 14 and 14 will just be 14. So we're doing 14, take away 6.5, and that gives us 7.5 for our interquartile range. Okay, now we've got some more scores down here. Now I've given them to you out of order. You can't do this work unless you put them in order. So I've done that up here already. That's all the scores in order. So now we're going to count them up and find our middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 scores. Remember the quick way, if you've got 13 scores, to find the middle position, you can add 1 to that and then halve it. So we're going to get 7th. The 7th score is going to be our middle. So let's count up to the 7th score. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Our middle is right there, so that's our Q2. So that's the first time we've actually ended up right on a score for Q2. So when you're looking at your first half of your scores, you're not looking at that score. Okay, it's like a boundary. We're looking at these. We're getting the middle of those. So if we have a look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scores there. Middle will be here. Halfway between 1 and 2, so that's 1.5 for our Q1. And over here, we're looking at these ones. And the middle of those will be right here. Between 4 and 5, that'll be 4.5. And that's our Q3. So we're going to put them in now. We've got 4.5 for Q3. Take away 1.5 for Q1 and you'll get 3 as your interquartile range. Now you can do interquartile ranges for dot plots and for 7-leaf plots. So this one's a dot plot and we're going to count up our scores. So we're counting up the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 scores. If we do what we did a minute ago, the middle one, we're going to add 1 and halve it. That'll be 24 halved is 12, so we want the 12th score. So let's count them up to the 12th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The way I was counting, that's my middle, that's my Q2. Now you've got to look at how you were counting. So I was counting from the bottom up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I was counting from the bottom up when I was doing it. So our first half of our scores are all of those dots, right? So that was our 12th score. We've got 11 scores in this group. So if we add 1 to the 11 and halve it, we want our 6th score now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That will be our Q1. And over here, here's the rest of our scores. Now, if this one was the 6th one from the beginning, our Q3 will be the 6th one from the end. It's probably quicker. So 1, I'm going to count from the top here backwards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that will be our Q3. Okay, now, our Q3 is this dot which comes from 15, that's our Q3, minus Q1 was this dot, which is a score of 12, and then work it out. Okay, so it's a little bit more fiddly with the dot plots, but you can do it, just take your time. All right, if you've got one of these in your exam, you know it's going to be a little bit more time consuming than maybe one of these. Just make sure you spend the time to get it right. All right, the stem and leaf plot. Now I've got some more over here, so I'm just going to move this over. All right, so we have a look, boys. Hopefully you can see all that. All right, so we're looking at our stem and leaf plot. So again, we're going to count up our scores, but we're counting up the scores in the leaf. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 scores. We want to get the middle one. Add 1 and halve it. That will give 17 divided by 2 is 8.5. So we want the 8.5 score. We're going to count from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's our 8th. That's our 9th. So our 8.5 score is going to be halfway between these two. So it's in here, and we'll work out what that is. So that number there, don't forget, is 112. And this number here is 123. So we're halfway between 112 and 123. So if you add them together and divide by 2, we are going to get, you can use your calculator for this, And this is to find Q2 we're looking for, or our median. You'll get 117.5 for Q2. You don't really need that, but that's how you work it out if you need it. All right, now, that's where we are. We're looking at the first half of the scores here. So this is our eighths. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you don't want to be adding 1 and dividing by 2, if we do, we're going to get 8 plus 1 is 9 over 2, 4 and a half. So we'll be 1, 2, 3, halfway between these ones. If you don't want to do it that way, you can cross off the first and last, second and second last, third and third last, and you'll be win these two here. So the middle of the 6 and the 6 will be 6, and that's your Q1. This was Q2 on the line, don't forget. And then we're looking at our other ones. So if you want, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half from the beginning. So we can do 4 and a half from the end. 1, 2, 3, I'm counting backwards, remember, that's why I'm going this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 4 and a half between these two. And the middle of 7 and 8 will be 7.5, and that's your Q3. So putting our numbers in now. Now that's not just 7.5, make sure you attach it to the stem. So it's 127.5 minus your Q1 is not just 6, it's 106. And then you can take those away and you will get 21.5. Okay, now we're doing a more applicable one to PDHPE here. We're doing pulse rates. Okay, so down here, the pulse rates for a group of students are those ones there. Now I've given them to you in order, I've already organised them in order, so it'll be a bit quicker for us. We're finding the interquartile range on the first one. So we count up how many, I've organised them in groups of 5 here, so there's 5, 10, 15, there's 16 students. Right, so we've got 16 students in our group. You can find your median by crossing off the first and last, second and second last, and keep going if you want to. I'm doing it the way I told you, but if you want to do it the other way, you can. 17 divided by 2 gives us 8.5. We've done that a minute ago. So counting from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8. There's 9. There's 8.5 right there. That's our median. We don't want to know that, so we're not going to worry about it. Okay, and then we've got Q1 and Q3 defined. So here's our group of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Our middle one will be in here. Okay, you can do your cross off first, last, second, second, last if you want to. You'll be in here between these two. So Q1 is going to equal 67.5. And looking at our last 8 scores here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've gone 4.5 scores from the beginning. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.5 scores from the end. I'll be in here. Sorry, I'll just put that squiggly line. And that will be Q3, and that will be 80.5, because we're in the middle of 80 and 81. Okay. So if we put those numbers in over here for our interquartile range, Q3 is 80.5. Minus Q1 is 67.5, and you get an answer of 13. All right, now there's a few other questions here that are a little bit trickier. You have to just read them carefully. This one says, list the scores that lie between the lower and upper quartiles. So let's have a look over here. Here's your lower quartile, we've marked it with that line. Here's your upper quartile, we've marked it with that line. We've got to list the scores between those. So let's go. 68, 72, 72, 75, 77, 78, 79, 80, and then we're not going any further because we've hit Q3. Okay, so we are between Q1 and Q3 with those scores. They are the scores that are between them. All right, now the next one. Now we'll talk about these answers after we've done the working for it. What percentage of scores lie between Q1 and Q3? Well, here are the scores that lie between Q1 and Q3. So let's count up how many we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 scores that lie between Q1 and Q3 out of a total of 16 scores. Make it a percentage by timesing by 100, and you get an answer of 50%. Now, we should have been able to do that with no working. If you understand what quartiles are about, you will know that answer straight off. Remember at the beginning, when we started talking about quartiles, I said that we go from this is our middle, this is Q1, Q3, and our minimum score and our maximum score. It was all splitting everything into 25%. So if they're asking for what percentage lie between Q1 and Q3, that is the middle 50% of scores. That's how we learnt it before. So we should have, what percentage of scores between Q1 and Q3? 50%. And that's exactly what we got. So we could just write straight up, 50% is my answer, no working needed, that's it. Okay, now we're going to do part 4. So if we do it the short way, what percentage of scores lie above the lower quartile? So if I draw my diagram, minimum, maximum, split into quarters, what percentage of scores lie above the lower quartile? Here is the lower quartile. What percentage of scores lie above that? Well, if you think about it, we have 25% in there. To take us to the end here, 50%. 25% plus 50%. You have 75% of your scores lying above the lower quartile. Okay, so just make sure that you understand what the quartiles are about. If you draw that quick diagram, you'll be able to answer these questions really quickly without even referring to the numbers in the question. Okay, so do some practice on it now and see how you go.